So I'm going to take you through this. So what you got to do, there we go. So I'm going to take you through soldering each of these connectors. And what you can see here is I've indicated which color of wire goes to which pin on the connectors. Okay. The other end where I'm saying I1, I5, I9, that's where it goes on the circuit board. Don't worry about that yet. All we're worried about is which pin on the connector does which color of wire go to. And you really got to make sure you get this right. Because if you put the wrong color to the wrong pin on the connector, then your cable checker is going to tell you that something's wrong when something isn't wrong. And one of the things to remember is this is the XLR, right? And this is the XLR socket connector, see? And in this one, pin 2 is over here, and pin 1 is over here, but on the pin, this XLR pins connector, it's the other way around. 2's over here and 1's over here. So you got to look at the number next to the pin and make sure it's about the number that's next to the pin. That's the important part, okay? And you'll see that. So if you look at this here, you'll see how orange goes to pin 2, right, on the XLR pins connector. But over here on the socket connector, it also goes to pin 2, but it's on the other side. So I even drew it that way. Just trying to help you out, okay? So here we go. I'm going to do these one at a time because some of these you've seen before and some of these you haven't. So I'm going to start with the XLR because you're familiar with that one. Now, I'm going to get my wires here. And here's one of my orange ones, okay? So I'm going to take one end of this and I'm going to trim it pretty small, pretty short, okay? About like that. I don't want too much sticking out. And then I'm going to come over here to the connector. And I'm going to tin these lugs. So I'm just going to lay a bit of solder into each of these lugs here. And let it sit there. I'm going to tip this down a little bit because it's just like falling down in there. I want it on the edge. See how I just put a little bit on the end? Okay, so which one's pin 2?
The one that the chart says.
Yeah, for this one, it's over here on the left. So that's where I'm going to put the orange wire. So I'm going to take the short end that I just shortened, and I'm going to solder it there. Make sure the jacket is touching the edge, okay? Okay, now I need a blue for pin 3. Find a blue. Okay, so here's blue, same deal. I'm going to shorten one end of it. And then it goes to pin 3, which is this one. I'm going to make sure the jacket is touching the edge. Okay, very important. Then I need a green. So here's a green. Shorten it. And I'll solder it in there. Oops, jumped on me. Okay. All right, that's ready to go. Okay. Now here's the NL4. Now you want to look at this real carefully because these are labeled too. You've got 1 plus, 1 minus, 2 plus, 2 minus. Right? Now, what colors go to what? Okay, orange goes to 1 plus. So I'm going to get me an orange. I'm going to shorten it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, this is just a flat tab here, okay, and I'm going to put my soldering iron and kind of rest it where that hole is, start heating up the metal, and then as it heats up I'm going to feed some solder until it cools, okay, and then I get the wire and I lay it across here, reheat that solder, and then hold it in place while it cools. Again, jacket touching the edge of the tab. Okay? Now we're going to do 1 minus. 1 minus is blue, according to my chart. So I've got a blue one here. Go ahead and prep the tab. Go. Because you're not in a hole, you're really going to need to hold this steady while it cools, otherwise it'll just fall right out while that solder's still hot. Okay, now I go to 2 plus. And 2 plus is green. I'm going to get myself a green. Everybody doing okay so far? Stop me if you need me to answer any questions. Okay, and now I'm going to do 2 minus. And 2 minus is yellow. Well, okay. That one's done. Yeah. All right, next is the 1/4 inch connector. Now this one's kind of interesting. So this is a tip ring sleeve 1/4 inch socket. Now what you'll notice is the tip ends up going there, the ring ends up going there, and then the sleeve is like inside. So you've got 3 tabs here, and you can kind of, if you look at this, you can see that this tip arm comes all the way back here into this last channel and then shows up on that lug. So it's, if I hold it this way, it's tip on the left, ring on the right, and sleeve in the middle. Okay? And according to my chart, tip is orange, ring is blue, sleeve is green. Now in the picture I've got it rotated, you know, 180 degrees from how I have it loaded right now in my chart. But that's just because I want the wires to soldering on the outside, not the inside. Okay? So here we go. I need an orange wire. And I'm just gonna rest it up against here to start heating it up, and then I'm gonna feed some solder on there until it cools. Then I'm going to lay it on here, heat up the wire, hold it in place until it cools. Now I'm going to do the ring, which is blue. Okay. And now I'll do the sleeve, which is green. Okay, I'll just give these a good little tug, make sure they're on there really good. That one's ready to go. Okay, next will be my BNC connector, which is this one in the little bag. Now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get this out and like fully assemble the connector before you solder it, just so you don't lose any parts. And you can take it back apart when it's time to mount it. Okay, so you've got 4 pieces here. All right, you've got the connector, you've got a lock washer, a nut, and then this is the tab that you solder to. So you can put that tab on first, then the lock washer, then the nut. You can if you do it wrong, it's not the end of the world. You can put it back together the right way later. But mainly you want to get this on here so that you can tighten this down so that tab doesn't start sliding around on you when you're soldering it. Okay? So if you look at this thing carefully, you're going to solder right to there. That's the tip, okay, or the pin. And there's a little scooped out, lug on the end of there. That's where you're going to solder to. And then you're going to put the other wire onto this, okay? So let me do the tip first. Now, this is such a tiny, tiny little hole that you're not going to want to tin that first, okay? Because otherwise you won't be able to see the hole anymore because the solder will be covering it and you'll have a hard time getting it in there. So the tip is orange. So what I'm going to do is slide the orange in there, and okay, it's still too long. I got to shorten it. Still a little too long. Okay, there it is. Oops. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some solder on my iron. Just a little blob of it, not too much. And I'm going to stick this on here. Then I'm going to heat it up and let it flow in there. And then hold it in place. Okay? And give it a good tug, make sure you got it. All right, now, this one, you're going to want to solder the other side, the back side here, because you're going to ultimately bend this down when it gets into the box. Okay, so you want to rotate it so it's sitting in here like that, you see? And then you can tighten it down. And we're going to solder it to there. Okay, this is going to be blue. There you go. And here we go. I'm going to heat it up, put a little solder on there, let it flow, and we'll fuse these two together. There you go. Give it a little tug. Okay, that's how that's supposed to work. Look. Everybody with me so far? Making sense? Okay. Now we're going to do, this is the RCA connector. It's a similar strategy. I've already put it together for you, but go ahead and tighten that nut just so that tab doesn't float around on you. He'll figure that out pretty quick if it starts moving. He'll be like, oh, that's moving on me. Now, these RCA connectors are, there's plastic on the inside of them, and that plastic will fall apart pretty quick with heat. So you're going to want to go fast on this. Okay, don't dwell for a long time with your soldering iron. Okay, so I'm just going to stick it there, heat it up, done. Okay, that quick. I'm going to get an orange. Oh, that's green. Orange. Okay. And then once again, I'm going to go quick here. Okay. Don't dwell too long or you'll melt that plastic inside and you won't really realize you've made that mistake until you've soldered up the whole box, start testing cables with it, and none of your RCAs are going to check out. And you're going to be like, what's going on? And I'm going to say, I think you melted your RCA. So that's no fun. Okay, so same thing. We're going to solder to this side of that tab. So I'm going to put it in here. You don't have to be as worried with this one about that speed, but still, you know, don't go too slow. But you don't have to be quite as fast as the one for the tip. So let's get a blue one now. Okay, there you go. Make sense? Okay. Last one. This is the tricky one. This is your 1/8 inch or 3.5 millimeter. There's a little nut that goes on the front of it. This one was in the wrong place. Just make sure you don't lose that. But that's what it lets you attach it to the box. So just screw it on there. Now these tabs are tiny, and there's a lot of plastic in here. Same thing. If you're too slow on this thing, you'll melt the inside and it will not work. So do this one last and be quick. And if you look at the chart, it's labeled, this thing is labeled 1, 2, and then there's this center one that isn't labeled. So orange goes to 1, blue goes to 2, and green goes to the unlabeled one. So 1 is on the left. So let me do that one first. Gonna need an orange. This thing's super tiny, so you don't need much solder at all to make it work. I'm gonna make sure I'm good and clean. Come on, get on it. There we go. Just just long enough for it to stick. Okay. And then you got to go at it again, but make sure you're not too long. I'm going to have to cut this a little bit shorter because you want that jacket touching the tab. Make sure your tip's good and clean for this so you're not dropping more solder into that where it shouldn't be. And then you're going to heat it up real quick. I'm going to hold it while it goes, okay? All right, we'll do the other side now. This other side is blue. Yep, all right, that'll work. See how quick I'm going? Be fast. Let me clean this. Now we'll do the green one. So yeah, do these ones last. Once you're really good and really fast, do those ones. Don't do them first. Not as forgiving. Okay, this one gets a green wire. There we go. Done. Okay, that's every connector. There's 2 of every connector though, so I just did 1 of each, so you're gonna do 2, but they're all the same. The only one that's different is there's the XLR. You've got a socket version and a pins version. They're the same on the back, except the pin 2 and pin 1 are flipped, okay? But other than that, it's soldering them is the same process. Questions? Okay, well, that's your next task.